None of his siblings, with the exception of those who already knew, expected Lincoln to say that he had been attacked at school, and knew it would be something serious for them to come downstairs this early on Saturday. But this was worse than any of them could have imagined. Their only brother, their brother, was attacked by someone at school. They didn't or couldn't understand, how would anyone do such a thing to Lincoln? Wait, you were what? Luann said in a panic. Like, what does that mean? Someone hurt Linky? Lenny asked with tears swelling up in her eyes. Lincoln looked down at his feet. Yes, Lincoln answered with his older sister. Luna crouched down and wrapped her brother in a hug. It'll be okay, bro, Luna reassured her brother. All of Lincoln's sisters, with the exception of Luna and Lori, let out an audible gasp. When they were told something happened to Lincoln at school, they didn't know it would be anything like this. They didn't know how bad it was, though. The rest of Lincoln's siblings thought that he had ganged a new bully at school, which wasn't entirely wrong, that had been threatening him, or something worse, struck him. Every one of Lincoln's sisters were shaken by this information. Lori and Luna have already known, but that didn't make it easier to hear it again. It would be never easy to hear. None of his sisters just had learned about what had happened, and they knew or happened to know how to process this information, all except one, Lynn Loud Jr. She had her head bowed slightly, with her fists clenched, as tight as she clenched them. Everyone had at least had thousands of thoughts running through their minds, except Lynn. The only thing Lynn was thinking about was how she could deal with the monster who hurt her brother. Lynn decided not to waste any time and walked over to her brother, fists all clenched. Who? Len asked Lincoln. Lincoln broke away from his hug with Luna and then looked at his sisters. What? Lincoln asked. Who did it? Lynn asked more fiercely. Lincoln took a step back away from Lynn. Lynn, please, just... Lincoln tried to request before was cut off by Lynn. Luna stood up. Hey, LJ, just take it down a notch, dude. This isn't the right way to handle things, Luna pleaded. Lynn took another step forward towards her brother. Tell me who did this, Lynn demanded. Lincoln started to breathe heavily, backing away from Lynn. Lynn, please, Lincoln tried to plead with his sister. Lynn had finally reached her breaking point. Tell me who it is that hurt you, Lincoln, Lynn demanded. Everyone in the house was shocked by Lynn's outburst. They understood her frustration, but couldn't agree with how she was handling the news that her brother's attack. The rest of Lincoln's family felt the same way, but this wasn't easy to get the answers. Lori stepped down between Lincoln and Lynn. Lynn, you need to calm down. You're scaring Lincoln, Lori explained. Lynn then just looked up at her older sister. I want to know who hurt him. And you're making sure they don't ever do that again, Lynn exclaimed. Lincoln just looked down at his two sisters, who were staring at each other in frustration and anger, tears swelling up again on his eyes. He wanted to tell his family, but this wasn't how he wanted it to happen. He started wondering if he should have just told everyone in the first place. Lori and Lynn just looked they were about right, and the other girls looked confused and worried, but he didn't know what to do. All Lincoln felt was guilt, and regret washed over him. The tears had started to well up and began to fall down the cheeks. He couldn't help it but lose his balance and begin to fall to the ground crying. He just wanted everything to stop. Everyone's worried looks of all murmuring in the distance. The sisters fighting and the desired most. This was the most pain, all of it just to stop and go away forever. But he was scared. But this could not go unnoticed. Luna had only taken her eyes off of her brother for a minute, but this was enough time for her not to notice what had just happened. She was about to break up her sister's pointless argument when she heard a faint whimpering. Luna looked over to saw her brother was on the ground, crying steadily to himself, in a scared state over everything that happened just in front of them. At that moment, Luna didn't care about what her sisters were doing or what they would do. She only cared about her brother. And why was he in the state that he was in? Luna was the big sister. Mo just kicked in, and she went on directly to her brother's side. The only thing that mattered was Lincoln and his well-being. Nothing and no one else in the entire world would matter to Luna right here and then. except her baby brother. Nothing. Not a damn thing. Luna knelt down and put her arm around her brother. Yo, bro, what's wrong? Luna asked through her brother in a panic. Lincoln looked up at Luna. Lincoln tried to get it out, but couldn't get through his sobs. Luna got closer to her brother. What's wrong, Lincoln? You can tell me, Luna assured her brother. Lincoln looked back down at the floor. They're fighting because of me, Lincoln managed to tell Luna. Luna looked over towards Lori and Lynn, who were both still glaring at each other, and a look of anger swept across her face. She looked back at her brother. No, Link, you didn't cause this static, but I am going to finish, Luna exclaimed. Luna then stood up and walked over towards Lori and Lynn, and she put a hand on each of their shoulders and pushed them apart, stepping between them. Okay, dudes, that's enough, Luna commanded. Lori and Lynn, along with everyone else in the room, were stunned by Luna's outburst. Luna was always the most laid back out of everyone. She lost all of her patience, so little of that. When it happened, it was always a shock to the system for everyone in the house. The room felt completely silent. Everyone was waiting for the other to say something, but no one dared utter a sound, while Luna was scathing like she was. After a few seconds and some deep breaths, Luna had finally begun to settle to a more calm state, but that didn't mean Lori and Lynn were out of the woods yet. Luna was just about to remind them both on why they were downstairs. Either a girl had just realized the gravity of the situation they now found themselves in, something Luna was more than happy to remind them of, those poor girls. Luna then raised her head and just looked straight. Okay, look, I get it, I'm mad too, dudes, but what the hell is all the fighting with each other gonna get us, man? Luna asked. Lynn looked up at Luna. I just want to know who hurt Lincoln, Lynn expressed. Luna then looked down at her younger sister. Going crazy on Lincoln, is that the best way to find out, LJ? Not only you went too far, dude, but you scared him, Luna retorted. Lynn's eyes widened. I wasn't trying to. Lynn tried to get up, but stumbling over her words. Luna knelt down and put a hand on Lynn's shoulder. I know you didn't mean to scare him, but I know you're sorry, but you gotta keep your head cool, man, for Lincoln, Luna expressed. Lynn then looked down on the floor and let everything Luna said sink in. She was right. Going half-cocked isn't really going to get the halfway to handle this. Or in most situations for that matter. But Lynn just couldn't help but when it came down to people hurting one of her siblings. You're right. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, Lynn expressed. Luna gave Lynn a soft smile and patted her on the head. Don't worry, dude. We're gonna get everything sorted out. I promise, Luna exclaimed. That was one of their sisters down, not one to go. Luna then stood up and turned around to face her older sister with a scowl on her face. I think you know what you're about to say, Lori, Luna said. Lori gave Luna a confused look. Wait, what? Lori asked. Luna relaxed her scowl. It takes two to tango, Lori. You know exactly how stressful everything is right now, and you just had scaring Lincoln too. Just look. Luna then pointed behind Lori as she explained the situation. Lori decided to do as Luna instructed, and turned around to see where she was pointing at. When she looked down and saw the state Lincoln was in, she gasped. Oh no, Lincoln, Lori said as she placed her hands over her mouth. Lori kneeled down in front of her brother, placed her hands on one of his shoulders. Lincoln, I'm so sorry, Lori apologized. Lincoln then looked up, tears still in his eyes. I'm sorry, Lincoln managed to get out. Lori then pulled her brother into a tight embrace. No, it's not your fault, Lincoln. None of this is your fault. I was trying to get Lynn to calm down and literally made everything worse. I promise that it won't happen again, and that goes for all of us, Lori promised her brother. The entire room was dead silent. No one really knew what to say or do. Some of them didn't even know what was going on at all. It had been less than an hour, and it felt like the whole day has gone, and this wasn't making anyone want it to happen. Lori and Luna and their parents knew that this wouldn't be easy, but none of them thought with the first 20 minutes that everything would fall apart like this. The children's mother couldn't take it anymore, and she knelt down to her oldest child, and only son, and wrapped them both in a tight embrace. No mother could stand seeing their kids like this, and it was just like how the rest of the day was going to go. That was until a familiar voice broke the silence, and it had entered the room not too long ago. Guys, I think I can speak for all of us when I say this is getting a little scary. What's going on? Luann asked with an obvious concern in her tone. Luna then looked at her roommate. It's a long story, dude, Luna expressed. Luann wasn't the only one wondering what was wrong with Lincoln. Everyone else in the room, who didn't already knew, they were all just concerned and confused as she was. This wasn't any of them what they had expected when they finally woke up this morning. After some time and some coaxing from the partridge of the family, Rita, Lincoln, and Lori were able to compose themselves and make their way over to the couch. The rest of the family, this was the news that was best received while sitting. Lincoln then sat down in the middle of the couch, with Lori to his left and Luna to his right. Everyone did their best to hollow around and just sit there. The remainder of the couch was a tight squeeze, but no one seemed to notice. Once everyone had taken their place on around the family couch, Lynn Sr. and Rita walked over and stood in front of the children so they could begin to address someone who was unaware of what happened to Lincoln. Okay, so I know a lot has happened in a short amount of time, but there's something you girls, minus Lori and Luna, need to know, Lynn Sr. informed the family. Like, what is it, Dad? Lenny asked. Lynn Sr. looked over at Lincoln. Something happened to your brother yesterday at school, Lynn Sr. answered. Everyone turned their attention to Lincoln. Yeah, dudes, something major has happened to Lincoln, Luna confirmed as she looked down at Lincoln. Lincoln then looked down at the floor. Lincoln tried to get out but stumbled his words. It took so much for Lincoln to tell Lori and Luna and his parents about what had happened to him yesterday, but telling the other 8 members of his family at the same time? It felt like it would be a borderline impossible. It did get easier for Lincoln to talk about what happened the more he did. It just felt like another person. 2 at most, but at this time, this was of 8 new people to reveal this to. The more Lincoln sat there trying to think of the right words, the harder it became for him to say anything. He knew that his sisters were waiting for him to say something, but he couldn't figure out what to say. This, as much as Lincoln wanted to do it, didn't go unnoticed. Everyone in the room and Lincoln was sitting in anticipation of what was going on. Each one of their sisters then looked over and was more worried about the silence continued. It appeared that the entire room would just stay silent for the remainder of the day. That was until Lincoln's father stepped in. Seeing his own son struggle as much was enough to break his heart and do whatever he could for Lincoln. Lincoln's father walked up to him and knelt down to his level. Son, Lincoln's father addressed while he placed his hand on his shoulder. Lincoln looked up. Dad, Lincoln finally let off, obviously pain in his voice. Lincoln's father smiled at his son. It's okay, son. I know it may be hard for you, and I know you've been through a lot. You could tell them if you like, Lincoln's father suggested. Lincoln took in what his father said. Having someone else tell them would be easier. Having someone else to go through all this would have been easier, and every part of him wanted to tell his dad yes over and over again, but he didn't. Lincoln was scared and wished that none of this had ever happened, but he knew hiding it from it wasn't the answer. Hiding it will only allow his attacker to win, and Lincoln was tired of losing. Lincoln clenched his fist tightly and turned around. He knew it was time for him to be strong, and the best way to start it was facing everyone and begin to take back of control that was in him. Lincoln then looked over at his sisters. No, Dad, I can do this. I have to do this, Lincoln proclaimed. Lincoln's father stood back up. Okay, son, I understand, Lynn Sr. expressed, with a small smile across his face. Lincoln then took in a deep breath and said, Okay, you all know I was attacked yesterday at school, but with the exception of Lori and Luna, you don't know how exactly it happened or who attacked me, Lincoln explained. What happened, Link? Luann interjected. Yeah, like, who hurt you, Linky? Lenny asked. Almost at the verge of tears, Luna stood up on the couch. Okay, dudes, we won't get anywhere if we keep interrupting Lincoln. You want to know the damages, and I understand, but you gotta wait for him to tell you, Luna explained. Oh, okay, sorry everyone, Lenny apologized. It's okay, sis, Luna reassured her sister. You're good to go, bro. Just take your time. Luna instructed her brother. Lincoln looked at Luna. Thanks, Luna. Okay, so here's what happened yesterday. Lincoln began to explain. Lincoln began to unfold in what only could be described as a tale of the worst nightmare anyone could experience. With each new detail of yesterday's events, each of Lincoln's sisters would become visibly shaken by what they were hearing. His younger sisters didn't quite understand what was going on, but they knew it wasn't good to everyone's reaction. Lincoln had to pause to regain composure every so often. He was ready to be strong, but even the strongest would struggle what he has gone through. After what felt like an eternity, Lincoln finally revealed everyone the horrible detail of his experience to his siblings. To say that everyone was shocked would be an understatement. The room fell silent once Lincoln finished. No one knew what to do or say. That was until Lenny stood up from the couch and made her way over to Lincoln. Lenny then walked over to Lincoln. Lincoln? Lenny asked, with tears streaming down her face. Lincoln then looked up from his older sister. Lenny? Lincoln responded. Lenny quickly wrapped her arms around her brother to hug him as tight as she could. Like, I'm so sorry, Linky. Lenny managed to get out between sobs. Lenny may not be the brightest, but she understood the severity of what has happened to her brother. Lincoln returned to his sister's embrace. It's going to be okay, Lenny, Lincoln promised with tears falling from his eyes. Everyone looked at the two siblings sat on the floor in the tight embrace. No one knew what to do or what to say for that matter. And if they were to be honest, they wanted to do the exact same that their son and their brother, if you ever given to their option. Lenny would have to stay there forever hugging her brother and making sure that no one would ever hurt him again. He was her little brother after all, her only brother. It was the hardest thing for everyone else's to witness, and seeing that people loved him more than anything to hurt through the selfish actions of someone else. Through the actions of a monster, no one would want to break Lincoln and Lenny's embrace. But there was still the matter of what to do, that everyone was up to speed. Something that Lori was able to mind her parents. Lori walked over to her parents. Mom? Dad? Lori asked. Linloud Sr. looked up from his own embrace with his wife. Yes, Lori? The father had responded. Lori wiped away a few tears. I know everyone's literally a wreck right now, but we still need to go to the police, Lori pointed out. Linloud Sr. looked in front of him to see all of his children, each of them looking more hurt than last. You're right, sweetie. We need to get ahead of this. We can't let her get away with this, Lynn Sr. proclaimed. Lori gave her dad a weak smile. I'll get Luna, and we'll get everyone ready, Lori affirmed. Lori walked over to Luna, who was hugging both Luann and Lynn. Luna? Lori asked. Luna looked up to her oldest sister. What's up, sis? Luna responded with tears streaming down her face. Lori took a long look at Luna. Guess it's never easier to hear, no matter how many times you've been told, Lori said mentally. Lori then took a deep breath and said, I know there's a lot going on, but we need to start getting ready, Lori expressed. Luna was confused at first, but it finally sank in what her sister meant. Yeah, you're right, dude. I'll give you a hand, Luna said as she broke away from the embrace with her sisters. Lori nor Luna wanted to rush their siblings. They had just been given the worst news everyone can receive. If they had their way, they'd be staying at home with everyone to make sure that they were safe from anything that could hurt them. They needed to be proactive, though. They needed to get help from the authorities as soon as possible. And to do so, it required everyone momentarily to switch their focuses. Lori and Luna began expressing to siblings the importance of getting ready as quickly as possible. It hurt to hurry them along, but there was something higher than importance that needed to be done. After some coaxing and some begging, Lori and Luna were finally able to get upstairs to get ready, except for the two siblings who seemed to have formed of the unbreakable embrace. Lori and Luna looked at each other. Neither of them wanted to be the one to break up Lenny and Lincoln, but it had to be done, no matter how hard it was going to be. Luna walked over to Lenny and Lincoln. Hey sis, you gonna take Lily upstairs and get her ready? I'll take care of Lenny and Lincoln, Luna proclaimed. Lori looked at her sister. You sure, Luna? Lori asked. Luna didn't move her gaze from Lincoln and Lenny. Yeah, I got this, Luna exclaimed. Lori nodded. Okay, Luna, just be careful, Lori expressed, as she picked up Lily and made her way up the stairs. Luna then walked over to Lincoln and Lenny and knelt down. "Hey, dudes?" Luna asked. Lenny looked up with heavy tears streaming down her face. Luna? Lenny managed to get out. Luna wrapped Lenny and Lincoln in a tight embrace. "I love you both so much. I know everything is really hard right now, but I need you to go upstairs and get ready," Luna explained. Lenny buried her head into Luna's shoulder. But. Lenny tried to get out. "I know you're hurting, sis. I am too, but we need to get ready. We are going to see the fuzz and get Lincoln some help," Luna explained. Lenny then looked up at Luna with a confused gaze. How is the fuzz going to help us?" Lenny questioned. Lincoln looked up with tears streaming down his face. "She means the police, Lenny. And she's right. We should get ready to leave," Lincoln proclaimed. Lenny then looked down at Lincoln. But I don't want to let you go," Lenny expressed. "I know, but this is something we really need to do. Please go upstairs and get ready for me," Lincoln pleaded for his sister. Lenny then looked to Luna, who nodded, and then back to Lincoln, who had a pleading look on his face. "Oh, okay, Linky, for you." Lenny finally, reluctantly, she gave Lincoln a quick embrace and then hurried up the stairs to her room. After Lenny had made her way up to her room, Lincoln just sat there on the floor, waiting for everything to sink in, and gaining the strength to get up. It makes it to his own room, but it felt like he was attached to some tension weight, and he couldn't move. Luna then looked at her brother, who wasn't moving, and was about to ask him what was wrong, until she noticed her parents were still in the room. Lori did say they needed to make sure everyone was getting ready. Luna then looked up at her parents. "Mom? Pop?" Luna asked. Rita looked at her daughter. "Yes, sweetie?" Rita asked. "I know this may be difficult for everyone, but Big Sis said we should all get ready. I was thinking maybe we should call the station and know that we're coming," Luna suggested. Lynn Sr. started thinking about what Luna said. "You're right, Luna. Good thinking," Lynn Sr. complimented his daughter. After some deliberation, it was decided that Lynn Sr. would call the local Prenict while Rita would get herself and make sure the others were ready. Luna volunteered to help Lincoln up to his room and make herself. They were all ready as soon as possible, to which the parents were more than willing to oblige. Both Rita and Lynn Sr. made their way to their bedroom and complete their assigned tasks, to which it left Luna alone with Lincoln. Most as if someone had planned it for this outcome. Luna had looked down at her brother, who still hadn't moved. She still had a job to do, but she was going to make a quicker detour with the process of completing her task. One detour that could meant be willing more than it. Luna then walked over and knelt down to meet her brother's eyes. "Lincoln, you there?" Luna asked. Lincoln blinked a few times. "Yeah, I'm here." Luna placed a hand on each of Lincoln's shoulders. "Good," Luna said with a smile. It didn't take long for Luna's smile to disappear. The tears from her eyes started to fall down from her face as she pulled her brother in for a tight embrace. Luna thought that she had been cried out, but she was wrong. She could hear her brother felt the same way, and she could feel a wet patch from her neck where Lincoln had begun crying again. Luna knew that there would be a point where they would both be able to move, and they wouldn't feel this amount of pain. But that day, it wasn't today. It took a few minutes, but Luna was able to stand herself and her brother up, making their way upstairs. Lincoln in tow, about ready for the rest of her siblings. It took a little bit of time for everyone to get ready, but after some time, everyone, including Lincoln, they were in the back door waiting for their parents. And as if on cue, Rita walked out of her and her husband's bedroom, dressed up and ready to go, and ready to make sure that each of them, of one of their own kids, was all ready as well. Keeping track of 11 kids was more difficult, but Rita managed to make it professional. That was the only day that left Lynn Sr., who was currently on the phone, finalizing everything with the Pernix Special Victims Units Division. Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye," Lynn Sr. responded to his cell phone. Rita looked at her husband. "Is everything okay, honey?" Lynn Sr. looked over his wife. "Everything's all set up. The captain and one of the detectives will be there to meet us when we get to the Prenict." Rita gave a relieved look. "Thank goodness. I was hoping we wouldn't have to wait long." Rita exclaimed. Lynn Sr. walked over to his wife and embraced. Everything will be okay. We'll get this taken care of, Lynn Sr. reassured his wife. Rita returned the embrace. I know, honey. I'm just so worried, Rita expressed. I am too, but we'll get through this. I promise, Lynn Sr. told his wife. Rita looked up at her husband with a soft smile and gave him a quick kiss. I love you so much, Rita expressed. Lynn Sr. returned his wife a kiss. I love you too, dear, Lynn Sr. expressed. Lynn Sr. took one of the last glance to his wife's eyes and then to his children. All right, kids, let's head to the van. We've got somewhere to be, Lynn Sr. proclaimed. Everyone made their way out of the house and into the trusty family van, Vanzilla, which had seen better days, but it had been a reliable vehicle when it came along with family who whenever they needed to go. Lori opened the door and started directing everyone inside. This would normally start a debate on who's sitting there, but given the severity of the situation, no one was willing to argue. Once everyone was in the van, Lori stepped in, and she was about to make her way to the back, mainly to keep an eye on the twins, until she felt someone grab her hand, keeping her from moving. She looked down and saw that her brother's hand attached hers. Lincoln then looked at Lori. Can you sit next to me? Lincoln asked his oldest sister. Lori looked down at Lincoln with a warm smile. You bet, Lincoln, Lori said as she sat down and buckled her own seatbelt. Lynn Sr. and his wife entered the driver and passenger seat of the van and started up the vehicle. It was going to be a short trip, but everyone in the van could feel like it was the slowest eternity. Lynn Sr. placed the Vanzilla in reverse and exited out of the driveway. Once he was situated in the right direction, he put the van in drive mode and made his way to the Royal Woods Special Victims Unit Project, one that was placed in no one in Vanzilla ever thought they would have to go to. As scared and hurt as everyone was, they were going to be in good hands. The two of the best detectives had been transferred to Royal Woods from Manhattan, Captain Mariska Harjagay and Detective Kelly Giddish. Detective Giddish then walked over to the Captain Hargray's office, where the door was wide open. Hey, Captain, early start for you? Asked Detective Giddish. The captain looked up from her paperwork. Oh, good morning, Kelly. Yeah, you gotta love the swing of shifts, Captain Hargrave answered. Detective Giddish let out a small snort. You could say that. So, do we have any news for today? Hey, Detective Giddish inquired. Captain Hargrave then sat up from her desk. Actually, yes. I just got off the phone not too long ago with the father of the victim. It looks like their son was abused by his teacher yesterday, Captain Hargrave explained. Detective Giddish let out a sigh. Same shit, different city. Do they even have a name for this sick bastard? The detective inquired further. The captain looked down at her notes. Yes, Miss Angie Johnson, Captain Hargrave answered. A surprised look fell on the Detective Giddish's face. Not too often we see a female predator, Detective Giddish expressed. You know what you mean, Kelly. But they are out there, and it's just as dangerous. Maybe even more so, Captain Hargrave expressed. Did they say when they stopped by? Detective Giddish asked. Captain Hargrave looked at her watch. They should be here soon. The father said they didn't live far. He said that his family are quite large and may ask a few questions, Captain Hargrave explained. Detective Giddish gave her captain a determined look. Well, Captain, let's go to work, said Detective Giddish.